Welcome back to Class in Session and our Best in Class podcast mini-series. Quick reminder that episode 1 that covered the history of Best in Class is dropped, so check that out if you haven't already. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the methodology behind Best in Class and answering some of the most frequent questions we get. My name is Natalie Jamison. I'm the creative director here at KLAS, and joining me for this conversation today is Dan Czech, our VP of Insights here at KLAS. Dan's been at KLAS for a little over 20 years, and I'm pretty confident has been part of more best-in-class reports than anybody else at KLAS. Would you agree?
Maybe outside of Kent and Adam Gale. You're probably right.
Probably.
Yep.
Awesome. So there's a lot of best-in-class knowledge in this room right now, which is great. So let's jump into it.
Sounds great.
First question is around why we only have one winner in a segment. Every year, there seems to be at least one segment where the difference between first and second is 0.1. And I noticed some that might seem like hair splitting, but kind of walk us through why we stick to that only one winner in a segment.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the reason we do that is because that's what providers are asking us to do. We've taken this to our advisory board several times and asking, hey, the difference between a 95 and a 94.9 statistically is not any different. Why give one an award and not the others? And at the end of the day, they want us to recognize somebody at the winner. That doesn't take away from the great work that others are doing, and we've tried to find other ways to spotlight those great performances in best in class so that we can recognize the great things that are happening in the industry. But at the end of the day, one best in class award per segment, and we celebrate those winners and we celebrate those other ones that are doing great things for their customers.
We absolutely do. I'm remembering there is one scenario where we will have more than one winner in a segment, and that is a literal tie.
Yeah.
They have to have the exact same score, and we will award both of them in that instance. There's usually only one segment a year that happens, and it's not often, but that might be the only time we do that.
Yep.
So let's hop into the next question, and that is around our market segments. Every year, we have a list of market segments that we've added to Best in Class. We have a list of market segments that we've retired. Walk the audience through how we evaluate what makes it into Best in Class and what doesn't from year to year.
I think if you look at the industry trends, you kind of see why that's happening and how it's happening. So KLAS tries to stay on top of the things that are up and coming, the new market energy, where provider organizations are investing. And with those investments over time, you start to see spaces that are no longer front of mind, or perhaps they're packaged into other purchasing decisions and are no longer needed to be visible to organizations because they're not decision drivers. So you look at recent years, some of the segments that we've built out, ambient speech is really exciting, obviously, having huge impacts on clinician burnout and the financial ROI, rev cycle side of things. So we try to stay pointed where the market's headed so that we can be most helpful to provider organizations and payer organizations.
Okay, next question is around our overall awards and our most improved awards. So let's hop into overall awards first. A little bit different than our individual segment awards. They are still considered best in class awards, but talk us through how those came to be and what the benefit of having these awards is.
Yeah, so these were, we started these several years after we'd been publishing Best in Class, and really we started to see the decision points evolving in the industry. So, for example, you used to buy a lot of point solutions and cobble them together as an organization. We started to see investments happening where you're going all in with vendors that offered a platform of capabilities. So when you're buying an EHR, for example, you're likely looking at Oracle Health versus Meditech versus Allscripts or Epic, and you're not going to be going out and purchasing a pharmacy solution. You're likely purchasing Epic or Meditech that offers a wide array of capabilities. And so we've looked at some of the spaces where those decisions are made at a broader level. The software suites, the ambulatory practices, management consulting. You see these big services firms that provider organizations are partnering with to meet a lot of their different strategic consulting needs. And so those decisions are starting to happen where I'm not comparing 2 point solutions, but I'm comparing a broad firm to another broad firm and who can meet the most needs for my organization at the best cost and drive the outcomes that I want.
Most improved awards. These are not best in class awards. We do award them in conjunction with Best in Class, but we've tried to be very clear that they're not Best in Class. But what are they, and why do we do them? Why do we award these?
Yeah, these are actually some of my favorite awards to give out, or ways that we can celebrate success in the industry, because these are typically vendor organizations that have put in a lot of effort to turn around their customer experience. And maybe they've been some at the very bottom of the pack, but have invested the time and the resources and the energy into changing that experience. And they may still not be at the top of the pack, but you better believe for those healthcare organizations that are customers of theirs, they're starting to see a big difference. So we want to recognize those that are investing the time and money into changing that experience.
Best in Class 2025, one of our most improved award winners was AGFA for Vendor Neutral Archive. They actually also won Best in Class for that segment. So we got to see that improvement from them, and it paid off for them.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to celebrate something like that, something that so beautifully encompasses KLAS's mission of improving the world's healthcare.
Right.
It's a lot of fun to see.
It is fun.
Great. All right, next question. And it's around how we organized the report in each of the segments. Walk us through how that's organized, where vendors fall, and why some of the various designations that they may see in the report.
Yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, we want the report to be a great guide to making decisions. So we try to separate vendors a little bit into categories. Every page is a market segment, and within that market segment, the first thing that you're going to see are vendors that we've collected enough customer perspectives for them to be what we call fully rated, or we're confident enough in their data and that they can be compared fairly against their peers, and we're comfortable giving a winner to one of those vendors. Additionally, we're collecting data, and we may not have a sufficient sample yet, but we want to be transparent with what we've collected so far. So we'll show those as limited data vendors with an asterisk, and ultimately at the end of the day, that means they're performing well, or maybe having a middle-of-the-road experience. But over time, as we add more perspectives, there's more of a potential for that score to swing high or low. So you might want to take those a little bit more with a grain of salt. And then you'll also see other designations, like a vendor who maybe doesn't offer the full solution that their competitors do, and so that they might be marked as component, or vendors often are acquiring other vendors. So you'll see over time a solution that is marked as not primary, that they may still be selling two solutions, but ultimately we want to show one that is the primary go-forward offering for a vendor. So there's other designations in there, but I think ultimately we want those to be the type of information to help you make a decision as a healthcare organization.
Best in Class, at KLAS, we talk about it being our keystone product. A lot revolves around Best in Class, but of course that is not all the KLAS is. What are some of the other offerings the KLAS has that vendors and providers should consider using in conjunction with Best in Class?
Yeah. What I love about Best in Class is it gives us that point in time, once a year, lay of the land for everything that we're doing. But oftentimes it's not enough to make a good decision with. You may have a vendor in the mid 80s and then another vendor right behind him in maybe the low 80s, but they maybe serve different parts of the market, different customer sizes. They may have different strengths and weaknesses. So we want to explore that in other ways. We have a pretty robust website where you can go and see the depth of the interviews that we're doing. We publish reports where we dive deep into some of those differentiators. We have emerging technology reports for some of those vendors that are new to the market, and customers are asking about them, or prospective customers, and we want to start to show data on those solutions. And then on the other side of what we do, we're really trying to understand the experience, the end user experience for different solutions. Right now, focused primarily on the EHR. That's our Arch Collaborative, and that's really interesting when you look at what decision makers and executives think of solutions versus physicians and nurses and some of those whose lives are affected by the technology decisions these organizations are making. So we probably just scratched the surface of some of the things that KLAS does. We do a wide variety of things, but my invitation to the listeners ultimately at the end of the day is to lean deeper into KLAS and ask your KLAS friends what more you can be getting out of it. And we're happy to share and fulfill our mission through helping you with that data.
The best-in-class methodology is built for transparency, consistency, and real-world relevance. If you would like to learn more about the best-in-class methodology, visit the KLAS website and download the Best-in-Class 2025 report. Near the beginning of the report, look for the Understanding This Report section, and you'll be able to find more details there. And coming up is our 2026 report. That's fast approaching. That is publishing on February 4th, 2026 at 6 o'clock a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Coming up on Class in Session, Episode 3 for Best in Class, we get the opportunity to hear from Boyd Stewart and Andrew Crandall about how providers and vendors can utilize the Best in Class report throughout the rest of the year. Dan, thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun.